Thank you, guys. Yeah, so along with Anne, I'm one of the advanced trainees, lucky enough to be with the ECI for the previous and the next 3 months. And I'm here to talk to you about a project we're doing called QuEST. Now, you might not guess to look at me, but I actually am a bit of a city slicker. And I get very nervous if I'm out here, if I got sick, who's going to look after me? And what's going to happen if I get, sicker in hospital, if I'm not getting any better? Now, some of you might be fully aware of this, but some of you might not be, that the emergency care throughout New South Wales is classified by the complexity of care that the emergency departments can provide, ranging from the level 1 services up to the level 6 with the neurosurgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, ECMO or mod-cons. The level 1 areas are more nurse-led, offering mostly primary care assessment. Level 2 have medical practitioners on call, at least during the daytime. And level 3 centres must have medical officers available round the clock and should have sort of separate areas for resuscitation. And obviously there's variation within each of the levels among sites. This is, I thought, a very interesting map just showing us where our emergency departments are located and what levels of services are available. And the absolutely sort of hyper-clustering going on around the central Sydney area with its 4s, 5s and 6s, leaving 1, 2 and 3 covering most of the rest of the state. And Lord Howe Island, having a nice time over there. And of course, actually, in terms of number, the level 1 to 3 sites take up over more than 50% of the emergency departments in New South Wales. And these level 1 to 3 sites actually see between 1/4 and 1/3 of all emergency presentations in the state. And they do see acutely unwell patients. About 10% of patients presenting at level 3 sites are given a triage category of level 1 or 2. And this does decrease for level 1 and level 2 emergency departments. However, clinicians at the smaller sites are individually exposed to the critically ill patients less frequently, just by sheer statistics. So how is it that quality standards are maintained? Now, the Australian College of Rural and Remote Medicine releases its guidance on the standards, the need for systematic reviews of serious cases, especially deaths and adverse events. ASIM has its own guidelines and policy on quality, that every department should be holding mortality and morbidity meetings, and there should be interdepartmental and multidisciplinary meetings as well. And similarly, CINA and ASIM have joint documents on quality standards, that there should be a shared information about safety principles, and that the best practice should be shared and disseminated between and within the emergency department. However, the smaller emergency departments may have limited specialist input, and its practitioners might have limited exposure to quality improvement practices themselves. This is where we come in as the ECI. So as you know, the ECI is committed to improving emergency care across the state, mostly via networking, collaboration, sharing innovation and research, and disseminating that to all participants. What was developed was the QuEST, the Emergency Quality, Education and Safety Teleconference for smaller emergency departments. This idea was developed in consultation with rural GPs through the ECI Incident Advisory Committee and the Leadership Forum, and there was strong interest to proceed. And what it is, it's a 1-hour-long tele and video conference. Sites can dial in either via phone line, via web browser, where they can see the presentation, or even actually through the existing telehealth hardware that these sites have in situ already. And what it revolves around is mostly case-based discussions. We're very fortunate to have a database of root cause analysis and incident management databases at the ECI, and we troll through those to find relevant and relatable cases of patients who started their journey in a small rural emergency department. We go through the cases in detail, what happened and why, how their patient journey evolved and what the outcomes were. And then we pick apart why this happened. Was the patient from a high-risk group? Were they demonstrating some of the red flags we've already heard talk about? And was there evidence of cognitive bias, anchoring, diagnostic challenges that were evident, even from just looking through the notes? Then we use the cases as a springboard for an educational session. What are the current evidence-based guidelines, on surviving sepsis? Is there ECI research and audits that can back up some of the practice? For example, some of the fantastic work that Hatham and Sally have produced on the airway registry, who's performing intubations and what are their outcomes? Or the acute scrotum project, what are the outcomes and missed injuries in that patient population? And then, if there have been cases that have a common cause, are there common areas for quality improvement in similar emergency departments, even though the case was not originated in your department? Can we learn from something that a similar department has gone through? So there were 3 pilot meetings between June and August, distributed to those people who attended the first forum and people on our ECI incident group, covering atypical chest pain and dangerous mimics, sepsis in the elderly, and abdominal pain in the elderly, and they're very well received. So we opened it up to all level 1 to 2 sites in New South Wales and most rural level 3 sites. In September, we had 10 sites log in to talk about scrotal emergencies, and in October, that had more than doubled to discuss deadly headaches. We didn't want to inundate people with feedback emails, so we sent one after the first one, and we'll send a lot after the November meeting. But we had 6 out of the 10 responses, and everyone who replied said that they would recommend the EQuEST to their colleagues or other sites in their LHD. And everyone found the case presentations themselves very beneficial, but also really enjoyed the ability to discuss the issues that were raised with other similar emergency departments. Some of the qualitative feedback was that the cases were very relevant and that they could relate to the issues that were brought up in the cases. Off the back of this, we've managed to look into 2 further areas of quality improvement: the red team, blue team that Anne was just discussing, the large issue of diagnostic anchoring and cognitive bias. But also, as you can imagine, quite a common theme is locum medical officers who can display a large variability in practice with the Oxford Handbook from 2001. And how can we remove some of that variability? And it's also looking at developing a locum pack to improve the integration of locums and the standardisation of care that is being delivered. Looking forward, what's really encouraging is that the majority of respondents also said that they had cases to share with us to contribute to future meetings. And this to us is really important because at the moment the ECI is curating the whole event. We are putting forward these de-identified cases, but we would love sites to put forward their own cases so that initially we are happy to present, but then as people become more confident with the format, presenting their own cases so that it can have greater impact, that these are really relevant and recent cases that we can all learn from. Then the idea is that for people to put forward their own quality improvement ideas, and together we can all share our innovations in quality. So that our aim is that no matter where you are in the state, you can have the best healthcare in emergency, irrespective of size or location. Thank you very much.